Hey class, this is Mr. Roberts at Shasta High School, and I'm sitting here thinking about the fact that, hey, you're taking a test tomorrow, and maybe you'd like a little something extra to look at before you move on. I just want to provide these questions for you to consider tonight. Here's how I recommend you use this video. I would, you know, pause the question, try to do what you see on the screen, answer all of those, and then once you've tried to produce your answer, then just kind of watch and verify that you got what you think, got what you, the solution. So at this point, if you're going to do that, pause. And now I'm assuming that you've unpaused it because you're all done and you want to take a look at this. So the first thing I'm doing here is I'm going to plot all the points and check out what they look out. So I've got the point 3 and then positive 6. So there's 3, 6 as a dot. I've got a point at 2, positive 4. I've got a point that's located at 7 over 7 and then up 8, 5, 6, 7, and 8. I've got one point that's located at 5 and then up 6 and 7. We've got a point that's located at 12 and then up to 10, which should be about here, 12, 10. And there's one final point listed in this data set. It's at 10, 8. So 10 and then up to 5, 6, 7, and 8. Ooh. 5, 6, 7. This is 10, 8 right here. I'm off. Let's see if we can delete that one point. There we go. So with these points here, I think that this, just looking at it, it appears that this definitely could be modeled by a linear function. There's some kind of a line in here that's a pretty good approximation for what I see happening with this very small data set. And I'm going to go ahead and run regression on my calculator. So I'm going to pull my calculator up. And I'm going to start by hitting stats and going to edit. So I'm going to edit my data set. I'm going to enter my x values in list 1. So I've got a 3, a 2, a 7, a 5, a 12, and a 10. So those are my x values. Over in list 2, I'm going to enter the corresponding y's. They are at 6, 4, 8, 7, 10, and finally the number 8. So with all those entered, then I'm going to go ahead and ask my calculator to display this data for us. So I'm going to go in and there's a couple equations here I'm going to clear. I want to hit second stat plot, and I'm going to turn on plot number 1. And you can see plot 1 is set up to be a scatter plot. It's going to read my x values from list 1 and my y values from list 2. So that's all set up. A good thing to do once it's on is to hit zoom and then go down to zoom stat, which is choice 9. And when I do that, I can see this data is looking very, very much like the data set that I have here. I see the very same sort of pattern. So we've managed to plot these points on our calculator. What we're going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and perform a linear regression. To do the regression, I'm going to hit stats, go over to calc, and then down to linear regression. This data looks like a line could fit it reasonably well. So I'm going to press enter and enter again. When it does it, it gives me the equation of the line of best fit. Let me grab this over here. And it says on the instructions here to round values to the nearest tenth. So my A value is equal to 0.5, and B is equal to 4.0. Now, if I extend this and ask you to round to the nearest hundredth or etc., you should be able to deal with that. We are rounding to the nearest tenth because that's the instructions. So it looks like the line of best fit is y equals, again, A was 0.5x, and B is 4.0, so plus 4.0. Now, I want to graph that on top of my data just to kind of take a look at it. So I press y equals, and I hit 0.5x plus 4.0. And when I do that, I see, when I go ahead and graph it and take a look at it, I see this line, and it fits very nicely with my data set. In fact, it's perfectly over it. One of the things I didn't write down was the correlation coefficient. I want to jump back over and grab that value. Um, so again, I go over to set calc and then down to the linear regression again. My correlation coefficient, I can see it from the last time, is 0.93. So if I'm rounding that to the nearest tenth, it's 0.9, which looks fabulous. Okay, and so now that I have this model written down, I can go ahead and evaluate this function. And you know, I probably should write this in function notation. So in function notation, it would look like f of x equals, f of x equals 1 half x plus 4.0. So if I'm trying to figure out what f of 8 is, basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my function, which is 0.5, times that input value 8, and then I'm going to add 4.0 to it. I'll do the same one below here. It's going to be 0.5 times that input value of negative 15, and then I'm going to add 4.0 to that. So for the first one here, you know, 0.5, 1 half of 8 is 4. 4 plus 4 is 8. So this would give me a value of 8.0. So when x is 8, this function produces 8. That's bizarre. The next one, when it's 0.5, 0.5 times 15 is it's 7.5, right? Of course, that's negative 7.5. So I'm going to take the negative 7.5 and I'm going to combine that with 4.0. And of course, when we do that, we get negative 3.5. So here, when we evaluate this, this is negative 3.5. Okay, the last question that you see in this section, it says find the value of x when the function is 8. So I'm going to say, okay, my function is 8. So looking up above, here's my function that I wrote down. When the function is 8, in other words, this part right here, f of x, when that's 8, what is the value of x that produces that? So I'm going to go ahead and write down 8 is my output value. 8 equals, it's funny, I know the answer already, don't I? 8 equals 0.5 times x, and then plus 4. So if I solve this for x, I'm going to, first of all, subtract 4 from both sides. So I get that 4 equals 0.5 times x, and then I'm going to divide both sides by 0.5, giving me that x would have to equal 8. I don't expect that to happen on the test, but it's very nice here because there's a lot of relationship between question 3 and question 5. But when x is 8, we produce an output value of 8. So that's one of the groups of questions that you definitely need to be thinking about on the test on Tuesday.